We are live?
I hope you had a chance to rest from us.
Did some squats?
Some push-ups, had a quick shot, because for some people a lot of what we talked about was new, and now we are going to move into specifics, into sequence. At the same time, we will still correlate everything with that first block where we spoke about the more global concept of children.
Yes, so we have a block about children's development at different ages. And this also applies to us ourselves. We can look at ourselves, relate certain things, and of course, if you already have children or are about to, you can directly correlate this information with them. So, ages 1 to 3, the first stage. We are not taking pregnancy right now.
Let's take everything. That way, it will be simpler and easier. Someone from our team, I don't even remember who, told me that we forgot one more separation, and I'm actually going to talk about it now, because we voiced certain separations, but this one I completely forgot.
Okay.
And another separation came to me. This is, again, that depth we often do not talk about. Remember you said that a child appears in the parent's field several years in advance?
Yes. A tangible energy volume already starts to form.
And it consists of clusters of worldviews, values, desires, plans, actions, emotions, feelings of both mom and dad.
Yes.
Here you have such a multifaceted combination, and even now I'm not ready to say who contributes more or less when 3 years before conception a child already appears in this world, and he, like a kind of cloud, envelops both mom and dad and, as if, guides them toward each other and creates favorable conditions for his own birth.
I can even say that the first such moments of a child appearing in the field happen 8 or 9 years ahead. These are grains, tangible grains, that are the very essence, the foundation around which, the closer to conception, the more a certain energy will be built up. The grains will crystallize, and 8 or 9 years in advance, an axis, a direction already appears.
Remember we talked about purpose? That every person has a purpose. Purpose is certain things a person does in this world and certain processes they are in. So this purpose is very clearly guided by children. It is our future children who create the conditions so that mom and dad develop and live in certain circumstances. So it turns out, remember I said that the future governs us? Well, it is children who govern us, creating the conditions for us to go into this or that role, direction, profession, interests, so that all of this creates the conditions for the birth of exactly them with those qualities they are going to manifest here.
So is it all children who govern us as purpose? Or only God-level children? Or children from the future?
Only God-level children and children from the future. That's it.
And if this is?
This is like the necessity of having children when you did not fulfill something, did not do something. Why do these children become, let's say, inertial? Because they did not have that long preparation that children had, who were planned long in advance, long ahead, and who were able to embed themselves and smoothly manifest in their parents long before birth, and sometimes even long before mom and dad personally, physically met at all. Although mom and dad, if they have at least a little intuition, feel the appearance of their man, their woman, and sometimes even fall in love with a man or woman who does not yet exist ahead of time. That is, this state of interaction and energetic connection already begins to happen. And here is a very important point. In life, we must be able to switch quickly, because this switching later creates the possibility and accumulation of a larger volume of knowledge and opportunities, plus the ability not to get stuck, and, looking into the future, separations as well, both from types of activity and from children who are already ready to set sail on their own. That's how it is.
So, separation from children who need to go on their own journey.
This is when we know how to switch quickly.
At what stage?
We will talk about that later. These qualities simply have to be present in parents.
Okay, look, if you gave these definitions, unborn projects, God-level children, and children from the future, can parents now somehow determine what kind of children they specifically have? And what is better to do then, considering that these are certain programs and tasks?
The recommendations are the same for everyone.
The same?
For both parents who gave birth to their unfulfilled life projects and parents whose children are from the future or God-level children. The inner operating system is the same. The only difference is that for children from the future and God-level children, everything comes easier, lighter, faster. That's all.
But where is the load stronger then?
The load is big in both cases.
A big load.
Here the load is because within a unit of time, you have to process a large amount of information so that knowledge, skills, abilities come to children born as unfulfilled life projects like hot pies. And here it is simply an intense mode because you interact with God and you interact with a child from the future, and therefore it is not easy for the first, the second, or the third if they do not know how to switch quickly, if they are stuck in some dogmas, rightness, and if they perceive it as I must, I am obliged, I feel sorry, and later you and I will go through some of these points as well.
Let's say that for someone here today, a child will be born in 8 or 9 years. Can a parent, for example, choose or direct themselves in such a way that either a child from the future comes or a child God?
Listen to your intuition.
Or even in a few years.
Listen to your intuition.
Your intuition, and then
listen to your sensations. Enjoy yourself and get pleasure from every action you take. And our quality is the ability to clearly define our values.
So the guarantee that a deified little child will come to us is that parents trust themselves, listen to their intuition, move forward, not exactly breaking through, but also not just going with the flow.
You know,
not staying in inertia.
They make bold moves.
Listening to themselves.
In relation to the interests that arise in them. Remember I talked about inner readiness to die? Well, it's like your mom, who in theory, we're speaking only in theory now, could have gone on to develop her creative abilities, singing, music.
Well, she did, at 60. And at 17, she was invited to the Shchukin Theater Institute without entrance exams.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. She betrayed herself. And on the one hand, that's serious damage to her next incarnations. But on the other hand, it's a huge potential for your opportunity to realize it and ease the pressure on her next incarnation.
So on the one hand, it's potential. And on the other hand, it also loads me, right? This unrealized potential.
You immediately have many times more responsibility for what your mom still should have done anyway. Because for any offer, for any challenge, energy is given, as well as the opportunity and the ability to learn in order to get there. Speaking abstractly, when we have a chance to become a billionaire or open a company or become mega successful, we are given energy for that, which pays for learning those abilities that a billionaire, a successful person, or that profession requires.
By the way, since we touched on this topic, I can say that a couple of years after my mom still didn't go to Shchukin Theater Institute, she lost a baby girl during childbirth.
A girl, meaning you, whom your mom was supposed to give birth to back then with huge potential, and therefore she couldn't work through that potential and pass it on to you while you needed it. We once answered a girl who had missed pregnancies. There the situation was a bit different. The mom was open, but not enough to separate. That is, figuratively speaking, her mom didn't let her go. This is called a consumer attitude of parents when they want to take for themselves what doesn't belong to them in the child. You must, you are obliged, I am your mother, and so on. Nobody owes anything to anyone, because children, by coming to their parents, repay all debts in full.
Oh, by the way, let's touch on this topic. We haven't raised it today yet. You and I have talked about it many times personally. And it's exactly this situation. My mom's first baby girl died in childbirth because she was wrapped in the umbilical cord and lying horizontally in the womb, and they didn't do a C-section for my mom, though they could have. Then my brother was born naturally. Everything was fine. And when my mom was, I think, already 30, I came again, wrapped in the cord, crosswise, but they did a C-section. I'm a C-section baby. What would you say about C-section kids?
That's when children have hundreds, sometimes thousands of times more potential than the mother herself, meaning the mom couldn't let in those volumes of energy that were supposed to be there. And then either the mom dies or, by the way, they only started using this relatively recently. Before that, either the child died or the mom or both. It was serious. But why? By that time, the volumes had increased, and this world began to be ready to accept, without sacrifice, but simply through a C-section, children when there is no other way to give birth.
By the way, there is research, well, it's not even research, more like statistics, that over the last 100 years, already with C-sections present in our lives, twice as many women have died in childbirth as men in war. That is, it's a very extreme story.
Listen, this is bringing new energies into this world.
Across all wars, I mean.
And this says that women were in a conservative state, in rightness, in categorical thinking, in fears, and in thinking through negation. That is the only reason. The death of a mom is an offering to God or to the child so that he can continue to live. Because as a rule, when there isn't enough energy, but not critically lacking, someone in the lineage, a grandmother, grandfather, or uncle, dies and a child is born. This is a sign that there isn't enough energy for birth, but it can be compensated by someone from the relatives, because if there is a lot of energy, then a grandmother can come while she is still alive. That's another indicator.
Yes.
And it's also important that when we interact, man and woman, at the moment a child comes, we need to give him chances. We need to give him opportunities. How? For some reason, everyone, okay, I won't say everyone, I'll say how I see it. Give the child a chance to choose when and where and in what qualities to come. And that means make love more often. Because when you do it once every 3 months, it's extremely hard for him to find any opening at all.
To sync up.
To be able to create those qualities, conditions, and parameters in which he will be born, exactly as the one he is meant to be.
And what about this idea of having sex only during ovulation so as not to waste the seed, the energy? People deliberately try to hit only that window. Is that okay?
That's something to take straight to a psychotherapist for intensive therapy, because saving sperm, saving eggs, that's...
Okay, if we remove that aspect and just talk about when a woman specifically uses ovulation tests.
Listen, well, every time
By the calendar.
when parents deliberately try to conceive a child, that's already a vampiric situation. That's just insane. The parents need intensive therapy with a psychiatrist. Seriously, these are sick people. They have serious problems, serious psychological problems. In that case, they should be forbidden to be parents.
Well,
Simply forbidden. Because they have no idea what kind of grief they bring to a child. Because it means they are attached, they are fanatical, which means the child is their property. And that means they will block all his programs and his development with their anxiety, worry, tension, and everything else. That's only to a psychotherapist, because a child is born in love and with readiness to accept what God gives when it is necessary. As soon as we turn on logic, calculation, a systemic approach, I was listening to doctors who deeply studied IVF, and they say, listen, when everything is natural, the body very clearly checks, okay, this egg, something's wrong here. Here there weren't enough microelements. Here, fast processes aren't happening. Reject. But with IVF, there is no rejection. They just, bam, implant it, and children with major genetic disorders can be born through IVF, because the mother's body clearly determines how ready the egg is. If it's not ready, conception doesn't happen, no matter what. And when they go by force, not all eggs are normal. Only about 30% are actually ready, and the body itself determines that these 70%, goodbye. And only these can participate in fertilization and be fully strong. And you also need to understand that when we train a man's body, what happens? In sperm, there is a huge amount of all the father's genetic material, and it needs to be constantly renewed and trained.
right now in the world, there are roughly several 100,000 children born through IVF. How do you see how this affects us and how these children live? Because I recently told you about Billie Eilish, who is incredibly talented.
Huge compensations. That's all I can say. There is always compensatory stuff that could have not been there, and about 80% of it is this harsh compensation.
Well, does that still give some kind of head start at the beginning? Maybe it's a cutting off from ancestral programs?
Look,
Maybe it's some kind of separation from the start? Or what is it? What kind of statement is that?
I'm trying to put this into words. I'll say it this way. They are uninvited guests. These children are uninvited guests, and conditions and opportunities were not created for them.
And accordingly?
They either don't fit into this world themselves, or they very strongly begin to disrupt the systems and rules of this world, emitting an inner operating system that doesn't match what was originally encoded here. Yes, the universe will react to this. It will correct all processes. But in fact, people need to admit that we may desire anything, but we have no right to be attached to our desires and goals. God will give when and what is necessary, and only in love and in nothing else.
Okay.
And this selfish desire, well, I want to have a child. No problem. Look how many children there are in orphanages. And as you said, that's your child.
By the way, energetically in our lineage, there are a lot of relatives who didn't receive enough love, attention, and in general can't connect with their lineage. And as a rule, when we take children from an orphanage, we make up for and develop our traits and qualities, and in fact take those very forgotten relatives and gift them love. And you could say that this is a certain mission.
There are people who...
But not everyone needs that.
And there are people who need only to adopt a child, a son or a daughter.
Without that, further realization in destiny is impossible.
And what's most amazing is that for many, after that, children are born in an incredible way when there were absolutely no indications before. Why? They fulfilled their mission, expressed love.
Unblocked that code.
Yes.
Opened.
Sensitivity. And why often, at the level of such general sayings, they say that when, notice not a cat, but when you take a puppy, and even better a mixed breed one, you automatically create conditions to experience kindness, tender love, and your inner aggression from categorical thinking gets released and goes away. That tension. Because dogs kind of remove the strong tension we have inside and create favorable conditions to expand the capacity of our energy, and then a child is born. That's how it works. If you are intuitive, you don't think, this is the only way I want it. Guys, forget it. It will be the way it should be. Don't say, I want to make money only here, or I must accomplish this. Better, I try, and it will be as it should be. Everything is from God. That's it. And let's be honest, the volume of energy that initially comes into children is the volume of love, pleasure, and enjoyment from when parents make love. To the extent that they enjoy the process, to that extent they open huge energy information channels through which a massive amount of life energy can come in. Remember, I said that whatever we do everything with pleasure, with enjoyment. Washing dishes, cleaning, working, going to the store, taking out the trash, interacting with friends, eating in a restaurant, watching movies. This is our accumulation of possibilities. And when we do this, not because we are planning to make a child and therefore have some kind of step-by-step movements there, but because we enjoy the process, we thereby launch those energies that later make the child who he becomes. And we define ourselves in general by potential, how can I put it gently? Just as there is pity and kindness, there is true sexuality when there is no past, and there is also demonstrative sticking out of certain body parts or vulgar behavior. Don't confuse these concepts, because sexuality is, first of all, sincerity, openness, novelty, interest, sparkle in the eyes, and interaction from a position of charm and the possibility of multiple options. That is sexuality. And that's why I say evaluate people through sexuality, because if he is a sage, he simply sucks life energy out of you in exchange for the knowledge he gives you. You will never be able to use it because it is dead, since he is no longer sexual.